Joining us now is 84-year-old ASMR mastermind from Derbyshire. So he went accidentally viral with people likening his videos to ASMR, but he doesn't even understand what ASMR is. His name is John Butler. This is what he says on his newfound fame.
I think if I was a younger man, I'd have been more excited about it. I'd never heard of YouTube, hardly knew what internet was. Pay attention. Keep your eye on what you're doing. When you're sawing a piece of wood, listen and watch. Listen to and watch the movement of the saw. If something in my voice conveys that restfulness, then thank God for that. I don't know quite how it happens. But most of my life I've felt really a bit of a misfit in this world, and I've felt most people weren't interested in me, but I'm just quietly glad to be able to share what I love. Yes, that's what it is.
Lovely. So John Butler is a farmer, and his YouTube channel Spiritual Unfoldment teaches people about spiritual experiences, and he's a very quiet, silky smooth, gentle voice. He's here now to talk to us. John, thank you ever so much for spending some time with us on BBC Radio Sheffield. How do you feel about this fame that you're having at the moment?
Well, I've just been listening to what you've been playing. The sound wasn't very distinct, but I think I said then that I just feel grateful for the opportunity to share what I love, or what I have loved throughout my life, which is this connectedness to, well, first of all, as a farmer, to the space and quiet of the open fields. And then I started to meditate when I was a young man. So I'm 26, so I practiced that nearly 60 years ago. And I practiced that for nearly 60 years. And the effect of meditation is to do much the same thing within oneself. It opens up the infinite space and peace, and in fact the infinite everything really, that is within every heart but seldom realized. The inner starlight, if you like, in every soul. And I suppose having practiced that for so long, something of that must penetrate into even such a thick, stupid person as me. And inevitably manifest itself.
There are two sides to this. Sorry, John, sorry to interrupt you. There are two sides to this. So the things that you talk about, like the conversation we're having now, but also your voice is a big part of what people are attracted to. Had you heard of ASMR then?
Absolutely not, no. I had no idea what it was. But when I met people who were into ASMR and learned a bit more about it, I came to realize that it's not so different to, really meditation, because you see, in every heart there is this deep, deep yearning to love and be loved, for peace, for meaning, for what lies beyond the restless chaos of so many lives. The sense of being held in loving arms, the comfort and the safety that we all, many people won't even admit to it, but it's there in every heart. And we're all really like lost sheep longing to go home. And those of us who've been blessed in our lives with a method such as I've been given, first of all, working in the fields, and then through the practice of meditation, those of us that have been blessed to discover something of this, which leads to really the total emotional fulfillment that we all so yearn for, this must connect with the same yearning in everybody else, whether you call it ASMR or anything else.
Do you think?
And lo and behold.
Do you think that, because quite a few people have found you in the last year or so when they've been experiencing more solitude than they're used to, do you think solitude is the connection? You're talking about us all having within us a need. Do you think that solitude has been more apparent over the year, and do you think that's the need that you're fulfilling in people then, John?
Well, solitude may help. Throughout history, people that have sought for God, for meaning, have often gone to the mountain tops or sat in caves or just gone out into the desert to try to clarify their understanding of what it's all about. I've done so myself. With practice, you can discover this inner solitude, this infinite peace, anywhere in the most crowded of situations. That's a very good practice, just to stand outside in the street here in Market Day and just feel it amongst the crowds of people. And in so doing, you strengthen your own connection with it. But that comes with practice. So to begin with, the excellent exercise just to stop talking, because if we stop talking, we then connect with the silence and the space, and we are held in this oneness, this marvelous oneness that contains all things.
It feels as if people are finding that within you, though. And I'm going to talk a little bit more to you, John, after we've had some music, about whether or not you've experienced solitude, what your life has been like to lead you to this moment. And I'd also like to talk to you a little bit about, how you found the last year. I'm talking to John Butler, who's become a little bit of an internet sensation with his voice and the things he talks about. We're going to talk a little bit more about this thing called ASMR later on, but we'll talk more to John and enjoy his beautiful voice after some David Bowie. It's David Bowie and Changes on BBC Radio Sheffield. You're listening to Paulette, also listening to John Butler. So John's a farmer. His YouTube channel, Spiritual Unfoldment, teaches people about spiritual experiences, and his very quiet, silky smooth, gentle tone is absolutely beautiful and has joined us now for a little bit of a chat. He's from the Derbyshire area. So, John, do you mind me asking a little bit about your farming life? And one of the things that I've noticed on the things that I've read about you and things that I've seen you talking about is that you always said, as a younger person, you always felt you didn't fit in.
My farming life, well, my first farm was here in Bakewell. It was actually the Bakewell Showground, and where the new market has been built and car parks now, that was where I started farming. Dad bought a few fields just up the road, and I was fortunately able to rent the showground and the fields opposite where they park the cars, and that's where I started, with sheep mostly. I've always loved sheep.
What is it about sheep then that you like?
Ah, yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is. Do you know, if you're familiar with the scripture, you'll know that very many of the wise men of the past started life as shepherds. And Jesus himself calls himself the Good Shepherd. I wonder why that is, or the Lamb of God. Well, first of all, sheep are very quiet and humble creatures. They don't make a lot of noise. And they're there in the open fields, and they accept. They don't grumble. They're patient. They don't fight amongst each other, or very little, only the rams. They just take what comes. So to frequent sheep and doesn't watch them, and to live your life amongst them, it helps to connect you with the reality of what is present. Right. Without this aggression that so commonly arises in the human mind.
So for you then, talking about your life and, how you've got to where you are, and I know that people are comparing you to a Jedi. You just mentioned Jesus there in scriptures. Do you see yourself as a bit of a spiritual master, some kind of guru at all, John?
Absolutely not. I'm embarrassed by all those sort of references. I'm the most ordinary of man, and I've made very many, many mistakes in my life. If I've anything to communicate, it's the result of a lifetime's getting it wrong.
Oh, I'm sure that's not true. How do you feel then about
But
your
I,
fame?
but I have lived a long life, and I've seen a lot of the world, and I've had many experiences, and thank God I hope I've learned some of them, which I may be able to communicate. But I think seriously, sorry, go on. You asked me something.
No. You talk. I just took an in-breath. I just breathed in then. I'm just listening to you, John.
Well, having told you a bit about sheep, when I was a young man at 26, I started to meditate, which I practiced ever since, all my life, twice a day, every day, almost without fail. And meditation is a marvelous way of opening up and discovering that same quality I loved in farming of the open fields, that same sort of wide open spaces within yourself. I remember my very first practice when I'd gone down to London to learn the practice. I was sitting in St. Pancras Station waiting room, and I'd just come back from time in South America where I'd been on top of the mountains rejoicing in all the space of the lovely high, wide and open country. And there I was in the waiting room of St. Pancras Station late at night, and I meditated, and it all opened up, and I realized I didn't have to travel the world to find it because it was all within myself. Wow, that was quite a discovery for a 26-year-old man, and I've been following that way ever since.
Oh, it's wonderful. And in terms then of being virtual and speaking to people via the internet, which you've done a lot of, do you miss the face-to-face contact? Would you be up for speaking to people, a room full of people, and just doing what you do on your YouTube channel?
Well, of course, it's always better face-to-face, isn't it? Because although it's wonderful what can be conveyed on internet, and no one's more surprised than me. Because even if I stop talking and I'm just silent and I just sort of smile quietly, often that conveys more than many words, doesn't it? And it's amazing how, yes, virtual reality it is indeed, but well, it's what's developed in recent life, hasn't it? And
Yeah,
I suppose
kept us going.
grateful that that's the way things function now.
Would you be up for writing a book then, John?
Sorry?
Would you be up for writing a book? Would you write a book?
Oh, I've written a number of books. I've written 8 books have been already published, and there are a couple more in the pipeline. So, yes, I started writing. Many years ago, I remember I was so thrilled at this discovery of spiritual unfoldment that I wrote off to a person who was in the school of meditation and said so. And he replied saying, why don't I do more to share that discovery with others? So I started writing, and I've written about my own experiences entirely. I don't quote from other people, and I don't, it's not thinking. I write entirely from actual life experience. I've had a very interesting life. I've traveled to many countries, and all this is recorded in my books. So if anybody wants to know how to reach, if they think I've got any spiritual qualities now, and they want to know how I've reached it, it's all from the age of a young man. It's all recorded in my books.
Oh, it sounds delightful. John, it's lovely to talk to you. We had a little chat before the show, and it was lovely. That was lovely as well. Thank you so much for joining us on BBC Radio Sheffield, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for inviting me.